I hate to kick off back-to-back videos with such tragic news, but unfortunately James Cameron is working on a new Terminator script, which at this point in time it's like, oh my god, dude, just let it die. This is one of the many franchises, and there's a couple of other ones, and some of them do in fact star Arnie, of course, that are very much enjoyed as one or two movies, even though there's like 7 or 8 installments. Aliens, yeah, that's really being driven home right now, especially with Alien Earth, in case anybody even knows that that is on right now. Alien and Aliens as a franchise, yeah, there's 2 movies and a bunch of other fanfic bullshit on top of that. Predator, well, that's also going to be driven home, I think, next month with Predator Badlands, with a little runt autistic goober Yehudi. Oh my god, that's going to be a dumpster fire. But Terminator, I mean, this might be the first franchise, perhaps since Zorro, that has been run into the ground due to sequelitis. Because I'm not going to take anything away from Terminator 1 and 2. Like, both of them are tremendous. It's really difficult to differentiate which one is the better film. I probably like 1 more than 2, but that's not to say that 2's bad at all whatsoever. They're both tremendous movies. And then 3 is, and then Salvation is, and then Genesis first, and then Dark Fate, bro. Like, what are we even doing right here? And at this point in time, nobody wants to touch this. You remember, it wasn't even that long ago. Was that last year or something like that? There was an animated Terminator show, and it made 0 difference at all whatsoever. There have been Terminator games that have come out, and there is a no hype. There is a no discussion about them at all whatsoever. It's a really dead franchise. So even if James Cameron comes back, even though it's alleged that yes, he's hitting a roadblock with a new Terminator movie, it's kind of a sign that you should just stop at this point in time. Well, let's see his logic behind this one here. Okay, maybe it's time for James Cameron to admit defeat and lead the Terminator on the scrap heap. He's working on a new installment, but he's having a case of writer's block that most casual observers could see coming. Is the concept too tired and played out for him finally? Kind of, but that isn't his main problem. Yeah, exactly, because, well, I can just go ahead and simply tell you my assessment of this. There's a reason that most people don't even remember that there are 4 additional Terminator movies, because Terminator, as a franchise, as a brand, is very much an Arnold Schwarzenegger brand. Let's keep it a buck. And in the case of Genesis and Dark Fate, it very much drives home the fact that this is a young Arnie franchise. Even when it comes to Salvation, right? And that goofy-ass CGI T-800 Arnie doing the big fight with, oh god, what was that? That's Sam Worthington at the end or some shit. Like, I watched that movie once and thought that it was like, ugh, whatever, man. There were some interesting ideas, and yeah, seeing the time after Judgment Day is, of course, very interesting. But there's a reason that the big climactic boss fight at the end had to include Arnie, because this is an Arnie franchise. He had diminishing returns with Predator 2, but outside of the iconic monster itself, everybody remembers Predator for Dutch. Going back to Cameron here, in conversation with CNN, Cameron, who has been the master of sci-fi and action his entire career, said that he can't seem to crack the genre anymore. The reason everything is catching up to his vision of the future authors and futurists had 40 years ago. I've been tasked with writing a new Terminator story, he told a comic book movie, okay. I've been unable to get very far on that. I don't know what to say that won't be overtaken by real events. We are living in science fiction age right now. Yeah, okay. And yet you continue to find new and stupid ways to tell the same tale over and over again with your avatar shit, but whatever. AI hasn't taken over, but it's a more prominent part of life than anyone could ever imagine. The technology and its influence are growing by the day, so it's easy to see what Cameron means. But yeah, at this point in time, man, like, I think the one thing that even the most jaded Terminator fans kind of want, it's like, just tell the story about the future war. Maybe just jump ahead to when, John Connor eventually saves humanity. Like, you could tell that story. That'd be great. You could put a bow on the franchise at that point in time and then just send it off into the ether from there. That would be cool. That would be fun. That would be something different still in the confines of Terminator. But the thing is anybody gonna buy a Terminator movie? Is Paramount gonna give them the green light if they don't have Arnie? It's kind of where we're stuck, right? Because he's lamenting, oh, AI, it's all going on right now. I can't write a sci-fi story if we're living through it right now. But yet, on one hand, I'm thinking, well, it's probably good because, he also had a hand in Dark Fate, and you retconned everything after T2 by putting a slug in John Connor's head at the beach, but maybe we should let sleeping dogs lie in this case. But also understand that, yeah, if AI is everywhere and its use is being put to task to different means in both entertainment and reality, you can't work something out with that. You can't find a way to use the likeness of use a young Arnie, AI generated, and flush out the rest of the world to do a proper torch passing? Because that's what Sylvester Stallone wants to do with Rambo, and it's very interesting. Very interesting, in fact. I'm kind of two minds when it comes to this, because it plays into something that I know that I've discussed before, or at least thought about quite extensively, so I think I've probably put it to video. It's the forever casting when it comes to a certain role for actors in Hollywood. Okay? I know this is going to sound funny, especially in the context as we were just talking about Terminator, but there are some roles that are just simply iconic based on its actor. Like when you see Sly, you think, okay, Rocky and Rambo. He's obviously done other stuff as well. But if anybody was going to step into the shoes of those two characters, I don't think it would work out all that well. Okay, you managed to spin off 3 Creed movies with Michael B. Jordan, but is anybody really gagging for a 4th? And the only reason that franchise got off the ground is because Rocky was in the first Creed movie. And from what I hear, they actually do quite a bit of character damage in that movie, but I haven't seen it. And it's been a while since I've heard that critique, so I just don't know 100% if that is accurate or not. But if there's a story that really needs to be told and the actor behind it really wants to make it happen, but unfortunately, due to time itself, they would be unable to take up the role and do it properly, this is when we can start to have proper CGI, proper AI technology in there, and that's what Sly wanted to do with a Rambo prequel about John and his time in Vietnam. That would be really great. That would be really cool. I could really get behind that. But it's the other side of the slippery slope argument that I know we've talked about before, where, yeah, you just end up with what other people perceive to be iconic casting in certain roles, and then you just end up with it. Eventually, you just end up in a point in time where you have CGI Abomination squaring off against CGI Abomination in even more slop entertainment, and, well, frankly, that's what YouTube has ended up at this point in time, and that just ends up becoming Hollywood. Like, you have AI Luke Skywalker, AI Carrie Fisher, and AI Harrison Ford when Disney decides to do a sequel to the prequel to the sequel trilogy, to actually put all 3 of those characters on screen together one more time because they just missed that obvious layup with the sequel trilogy. It's not going to hit the same, but all of the shills on social media will react to it nonetheless. But Sylvester Stallone revealed that an AI Rambo prequel that he was working on was ultimately scrapped. Oh, John Rambo has been one of Stallone's most iconic characters. Stallone first portrayed the character in 82's, man, that's that old, huh? First Blood, and then reprised the role reprised it 4 additional times, yes, the most recent being 2019's Last Blood. The character of Rambo is set to return to the big screen, but with the recruit star Noah Centineo playing John Rambo. And again, we'll see, because Terminator Salvation was one of those movies where they were trying to move on past Arnie, but then, of course, you know that they waited until he was done with his stint in politics as California's governor before they'd run back a 5th Terminator movie. So the new movie, currently titled John Rambo, is set to be a prequel to First Blood, following Rambo's time in the Green Berets in Vietnam. However, Stallone was working on a new Rambo project of his own. In an interview with Screen Rant's Liam Crowley for Tulsa King Season 3, the topic of a Rambo prequel came up, and Stallone said that he had the idea to use AI to help recreate his younger Rambo before the John Rambo team took the baton. Here's what Stallone had to say. I wanted to do the first AI, not retroactive, but I wanted to rewrite the history of earlier Rambo because I wanted Rambo to be the nicest guy in the school, the valedictorian, the prom king, and all that stuff. And when he goes to Vietnam, he thinks it's going to be a 3-week hit and run, and you see him being tortured and captured, his friends murdered, and things after another. One thing after another, and his A Life in Saigon. Wow, this sounds really awesome. And that's how I became the way I became. But originally, I was bon vivant, that kind of thing. And I thought, we could do this with AI. We were procrastinating too long, and they took over. And I hope, good luck. What's weird about this situation, and even though it's scrapped right now, like if First Blood ends up probably doing about as well as we would expect it to do, I don't think we're that far away with AI technology, and this is where James Cameron comes back in on this one. We're definitely living in a timeline where it won't be that long from now where somebody's going to be able to put in a script prompt into one of these AI bots, and then we'll end up with what Stallone was thinking about with his version of a Rambo prequel. And so if James Cameron can figure out how to do another Terminator movie, it won't take that long until we get a real Terminator fan out there to give us that proper future war movie that we would all like to see. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.